In this video, I am going to explain the meaning of inverse matrix and hence determine the inverse matrix for a 2 by 2 matrix. What is the meaning of inverse matrix? If multiplication of matrix A and matrix B produce an identity matrix I, then matrix B is the inverse matrix of matrix A and vice versa. To know further, let us look at example 22. Determine whether the following matrix is the inverse matrix of 4, 1, 7, 2. Explain your answer. Okay, first of all, we just multiply these two matrices. 4, 1, 7, 2 and 4, 1, negative 7, 2. So, still remember how to multiply? 4 times 4 plus 1 times negative 7. And first row, second column, 4 times 1 plus 1 times 2. Okay, second row, 7 times 4 plus 2 times negative 7 and 7 times 1 plus 2 times 2. And the product is 9, 6, 14, 11. The product is not an identity matrix. So what is the conclusion? The conclusion is 4, 1, negative 7, 2 is not the inverse matrix of 4, 1, 7, 2 because the product of these two matrices is not an identity matrix. Okay, so now we try B. We determine whether the matrix 2, negative 1, negative 7, 4 is inverse matrix of 4, 1, 7, 2. Again, row times column. So for these two matrices, we can obtain 4 times 2 plus 1 times negative 7. And of this, 4 times negative 1 plus 1 times 4. 7 times 2 plus 2 times negative 7. 7 times negative 1 plus 2 times 4. You will obtain 1, 0, 0, 1. So what is the conclusion? 2, negative 1, negative 7, 4 is the inverse matrix of 4, 1, 7, 2 because the product of these two matrices is an identity matrix. Okay, now we have matrix A, B, C, D. The inverse matrix A can be obtained using the formula as follows. 1 over AD minus BC bracket D, negative B, negative C, A, where AD minus BC not equals 0. Determinant for matrix A, AD minus BC is here. This part not equals 0. If AD minus BC equals 0, means that inverse matrix does not exist. Because if you count 1 over 0, what happens? You will obtain undefined value. Okay, so that's why when determinant AD minus BC equals 0, inverse matrix does not exist. We look at example 23. For each of the following matrices, determine whether the inverse matrix exists. If yes, calculate the inverse matrix. Okay, so first we write the determinant AD minus BC. Okay, we check whether equals 0 or not. Okay, so as you know, this is A, this is B, C, and D. So I just substitute the value of A, B, C, D into here. A times D minus B times C equals 0. Okay, means that determinant is equals 0. Hence, inverse matrix of A does not exist. Now we try to answer B. The matrix B equals 3, 5, 2, 4. Again, we determine whether inverse matrix exists or not. AD minus BC. So now A, B, C, D. So mean A times D, 3 times 4, minus B times C, 5 times 2, right? Equals 2. So determinant B not equals 0. Hence, inverse matrix of B is exists. Okay, so now we want to find the inverse matrix of B by using formula. So, inverse matrix of B, 1 over, normally I will draw an arrow here, means I start from number 3 times 4 minus 5 times 2. In the bracket here. Okay, for the number with the arrow, we change the place. So means 4 go up and 3 go down. And here, number 5 and 2, if positive, you change to negative, negative change to positive. Now both number is positive, so I put negative 5, negative 2. This equals 1 over 2 times 4, negative 5, negative 2, 3. Or you multiply each element by 1 over 2. So 1 over 2 times 4 is 2. 1 over 2 times negative 5 is negative 5 over 2. 1 over 2 times negative 2 is negative 1. 1 over 2 times 3 is 3 over 2. Example 24, given that matrix C, 2, negative 6, 1, negative 2, calculate the inverse matrix of C. Okay, still remember what is the formula of inverse matrix? 1 over AD minus BC, then in the bracket, D, A, negative B, negative C. Okay, so normally I will do like this, draw an arrow. So I start with the number with arrow. So here 2 times negative 2. Actually is AD minus BC. So negative 6 times 1. How about the bracket here? You exchange the position of the element in the main diagonal. Here, the main diagonal is 2 and negative 2, so you exchange. Just look at the arrow. The arrow is at the main diagonal. And the other element you multiplied with negative 1. So negative 6 times negative 1 is positive 6. And normally I will say, if the number is negative, you change to positive. If number is positive, change to negative. Because 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. Okay. Now, you will obtain 1 over 2. And the matrix you copy down, or you can write as negative 1, 3, negative 1 over 2, 1. For example 25, given that matrix D equals M, negative 6, 1, negative 2. Calculate the value of M if A. Matrix D does not have inverse matrix. Still remember, when matrix D does not have inverse matrix, when determinant equals 0. So what is determinant? AD minus BC. Okay, so now ABCD. So AD minus BC actually is cross multiplication, right? So M times negative 2 minus negative 6 times 1 equals 0. Negative 2M plus 6 equals 0. Negative 2M equals negative 6. M equals negative 6 over negative 2. And M equals 3. Okay, B. Inverse matrix of D equals negative 1, 3, negative 1 over 2, 1. So this is another situation when inverse matrix is exists. Okay, so means that we need to do the inverse matrix. After that, we compare with this. Okay, so what is the formula for inverse matrix? Still remember? 1 over AD minus BC. So just follow the arrow here. AD minus BC. Main diagonal here, follow the arrow, you change the place, -2 go up, m go down, and the other number you multiply with -1, so -6 times -1 is +6, and and 1 times -1 is -1. So equals 1 over -2m plus 6, -2, 6, -1, m. This one I multiply with this will equals -1, right? Okay, so 1 over -2m plus 6 times -2 equals -1. So -2 I put above, then at the bottom here is -2m plus 6 equals -1. Okay, so this one I move over this side. -2 equals -1 times -2m plus 6. So -2 equals 2m minus 6. So I move over the -6 to left hand side. Negative become positive. So -2 plus 6 equals 2m. And 4 equals 2m. 2m equals 4. M equals 2. Of course, you can use other method to get the value of m, but I think this is the easiest way to get the value of m. Okay. Now, example 26. It is given that 1, 2, 3, 8 times matrix A equals identity matrix, and matrix A has an order 2 by 2. Calculate matrix A. Since the product of 1, 2, 3, 8 with matrix A is an identity matrix, hence A is an inverse matrix of 1, 2, 3, 8. Okay, so very simple, you just change this matrix into inverse matrix because A is inverse matrix of this matrix 1, 2, 3, 8. Okay, still remember how to find the inverse matrix? First, you draw an arrow and use the formula 1 over AD minus BC. So, still remember where is A? Here is A, D, here is B, here is C, right? So, actually, basically is cross multiplication and the middle is minus. So, 1 times 8 minus 2 times 3. Okay, now follow the arrow. So 8 go up and 1 go down. And the other number you just change if positive. If positive, you change to negative. So here -2, 3 is -3. So you will obtain 1 over 2 at -2, -3, 1. Multiply every element by 1 over 2, you will obtain 4, -1, -3/2, and 1/2. So this is matrix A. That's all for today. See you next time. Bye bye.